Okay, I really love Disneyland. Is there any Disneyland fans in the room? Okay, cool. All right, let's do a little bit of voting. How many of you are Disneyland fans, but if you're really honest, you tend to lean Disney World? Okay, all right, okay. How many of you like, hey, I know everybody's all about Disney World, but it's humid in Florida. Disneyland was the first one, and you get to go to California where there's not humidity, and I'm like, you're a Disneyland fan first. How many of you, do we have any Disneyland fan firsts in the room? There's like 8 of us. Wow, I am definitely not from Texas. Wow. Okay, I love Disneyland. I've been to Disneyland like a dozen times or more. I kid you not. I love Disneyland. Part of it's because I'm from California, so it was a lot easier for me to go there a lot. And there's a lot of rides there that I really like. I haven't gotten to go to the new Star Wars land yet, but I really want to. Has anybody been to the new Star Wars land yet in Disneyland or Disney World? Has anybody been? I haven't been yet, really want to go. The one that I really love to go to in Disneyland is the Indiana Jones ride. Has anybody ever been on the Indiana Jones ride? Now, some of you might not know who Indiana Jones is. Indiana Jones has this series of movies where he's like this archaeologist, and he's got a whip, and he's got like a man purse and a gun, and he's just super cool. He always gets the girl, and he's finding treasure, and he's on the run, and he fights Nazis, and in my opinion, if you fight Nazis, you're awesome, okay? And so anyway, that's Indiana Jones in a nutshell. There's a ride at Disneyland called the Indiana Jones ride. It's an adventure ride. And basically you get into these like Humvee Jeeps, and you go through this temple, and like there's these things that try to kill you, like large snakes and bugs and all these kinds of things like that. But anyway, the thing that's unique about this ride that a lot of people don't know is that each of the individual cars run on their own computers. And if one of them goes down, it screws all of them up. And so for the longest time, they've had problems with it. So the first time I ever got to go to Disneyland to ride the Indiana Jones ride, like we ran to where the Indiana Jones ride was. We were so excited about the Indiana Jones ride. And so we waited in line for an hour and a half. Did you hear me? I said an hour and a half for a 5-minute ride. I'm either really not smart or this ride has got to be awesome. You know what I mean? And so we wait an hour and a half. The ride breaks down. They say, we're really sorry. You're going to have to go maybe later. Okay, so we did. We come back later. I wait for an hour and 45 minutes. And I'm pretty close this time. Like, we're pretty close. And we hear over the loudspeaker, we're really sorry, Disneyland people, but you're going to have to leave. It's broken down again. I'm like, oh, my goodness sakes alive. You've got to be kidding me. So luckily, we had a 2-day pass. We came back the next day. Guess what ride I ran for as soon as I got there? Indiana Jones ride. That's exactly right. I run all the way to the Indiana Jones ride. We got a pretty good spot in line. It's the first place that we went. We're in line for Indiana Jones ride. We're waiting for the Indiana Jones ride. Oh boy, we're getting closer and closer. I can actually see the fake Jeeps. I can see them. And I'm thinking, I gotta be the one with the steering wheel. I don't know if it really works, but there's just something about being a dude where you gotta have the steering wheel. Men in the house, am I right? You gotta have the steering wheel, you know what I'm saying? It's a steering wheel, right? That's what's up. And so I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how I get the steering wheel spot. You know, anybody else can fend for themselves. I don't care, I need the steering wheel. And so I'm trying to figure that out. I kid you not, we are like the 4th group from getting on, and over the loudspeaker, we're really sorry, Disneyland, but and then we're like, oh, you have gotta be kidding me right now. Are you out of your ever-loving mind? I'm telling like this 16-year-old from like Peru or somewhere like that. Everybody at Disneyland's from other countries. It's awesome to look at their badge and find out where they're from. It's really cool. And she's like this tall, and she's really apologetic, and I'm trying to be a nice dude because you know I'm a pastor and all that. And I'm like, and she's like, I'm really sorry, sir. We have a lot of problems. I'm like, okay, it's not your fault. And so we left, and we ended up not getting to go on the Indiana Jones ride for a while. But if you get to go, it is awesome. But sometimes unfair, unjust things happen in our lives. It happens literally to all of us. The question comes, what will you do when it happens to you? That's the question. See, all of us have unfair or unjust things that happen in our lives. So for me, it was not getting a ride, the Indiana Jones ride. Just for the record, over 2 days, I ended up waiting like 5 hours for this stupid ride before I was able to ride it my next visit to Disneyland. It was really hard. But we live in a world where we have this kind of stuff happen. The question is, what are you gonna do when it happens to you? See, we've been talking about this idea of injustice. We talked about how we got to be on the lookout for injustice and do what we can. And then Pastor Garrett was here, and my man G talked about how you need to look up, before you're on the lookout for what injustice is out there, you need to kind of be looking at the injustice that's inside you. And this week, we're talking about something different. We're talking about when you experience injustice, that you can either respond or react, okay? When you experience injustice, you can either respond or react. Let's talk about that really quick. See, this is what respond and react. Let's go back to Disneyland again. See, one of the things that makes Disneyland the happiest place on earth, a lot of people don't know this, is if something really goes bad with somebody, they've actually told the Disneyland employees that they can do almost anything to try to make it better. So like if there's a family that's having just a really rough day, they have this ability to go into a store and like if there's a family that's like, let's say that they didn't plan on it being really cold that night. If they wanted to, they could buy sweatshirts for the little kids of that family if they wanted to, free, just to do it. If they see that a kid's like their ice cream cone, you know when little kids will get the ice cream cone and they take a big lick and it falls and you want to laugh, but you know it's kind of mean. But some of us laugh anyway because it's still kind of funny. I'm that guy. I'm sorry, but I'm that guy. But like, let's say that happens. Let's say that you are with your family and you go, and they go aside, and your older brother's like, ha, 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 and I'm that older brother, and it's awesome, and it's a funny moment. But you're like, my mom just paid $40 for this for me, and now I'm not gonna have anything because it's at Disneyland, you know? And you just, you know, you kind of feel bad about it and stuff. Well, the Disneyland people, like, they can help you. In fact, if you handle it the right way, they want to help you. See, reacting is what a little kid does. A little kid reacts. A little kid throws a temper tantrum. You know, your dad comes running over, wondering what happened to your little brother, thinking maybe someone ran over their foot with a motorcycle or something, right? And you're laughing still, right? Because it's really funny. You're like, it's on the ground. It's funny. And they're like, he's like, what's going on? And your little brother's like, there's an ice cream in the ground. And you're just like, my little brother's on crack. I don't know what's going on here, but Dad, you know, because you're mature, right? You got it together. Like, you're not gonna do that, you know what I'm saying? That's not who you are. You're in middle school now. You're more mature. So you're not gonna react like that. You're not gonna stamp your feet. You're not gonna scream. You're not gonna blame the ice cream lady because it wasn't properly aligned on the cone. Right? That's not you. That's not your style. That's not how you roll, right? You're gonna respond. See, that's one of the differences between a little kid and someone who's becoming more mature. Little kids react. You're not a little kid anymore. One of the things I want for you desperately is for you to be treated with maturity and respect. One of the ways you can be treated with maturity and respect is to command that maturity and respect. It comes from the way you respond when injustice happens. That's one of the things that makes it different. It's that way in your home, it's that way on the street, it's that way with your family, with your friends in your school. We have to respond and not react. We can't just give in to our feelings, our emotions, but we live in a world that's super hard for that, right? We live in a world full of unjust, uncaring, and unfair things. We have people that put labels on us. And by the way, these are super edited, and I realize that because we're in church and I'll probably lose my job if I made these really honest. But you might get called a jerk. And maybe you're a little different than other people. Maybe you get made fun of because of your faith, or maybe you get made fun of because of the kinds of animation that you like, or the kinds of TV shows you like, or because of the kind of music you listen to, and you get called some version of the word freak. Maybe you feel judged. Maybe as soon as you walk into the school, you feel like there's all these people staring at you, carrying on, not letting you speak, think, or be who you are. And the word that you think hangs over you like an icon is the word judged. Maybe there's people that talk about you behind your back. And when they see you walk up, they think the word drama. Oh, she's drama. Maybe because you've had a hard life. And maybe you don't smile as much as someone else does. And maybe you don't have as many friends as some of the other people do. And maybe you made the mistake of telling the wrong person the right story. And maybe someone knows that you've had some really hard things happen in your life. And maybe it's a word that isn't spoken, but maybe it's a word that people whisper and know. And as you start to hear these things over you, you start to think all kinds of things about you. You start to think that you're unimportant, because that's why we immaturely react and not respond. When we hear these kinds of things about us or people we care about, we think we're unimportant. We think we're a hassle. Maybe dad has a new girlfriend and doesn't visit as often as he did before, and we think we're a hassle. Maybe people think we're in the way and they view us as an obstacle. They think we're someone to be overcome or zoomed past, but not to be dealt with, talked to, or embraced. Maybe we get called this so many times by our brother or our sister or by someone in school that we're annoying, we start to think it's our name. Maybe we start to look at the screens and we look at the other people walking down the hall. And maybe even someone has said it to us or sent it to us, but we think we're ugly because someone's either said it or because my body doesn't look like theirs. Maybe it all starts to pile up and we think that something's really wrong with us and that we're damaged. And then we start to get angry because we see that we're mistreated. We might get bullied. We might get pushed around. We might feel like we're the one that gets looked over constantly. It's the teacher that won't seem to have enough time to talk to us. It's our coach that won't seem to find a way to include us. It's the director that won't give us a shot for that other part instead of giving us the same part over and over again. And so we start feeling things about ourselves that maybe it's true. Maybe I'm really not that big a deal. Maybe my purpose in life is I'm a doormat and I exist for other people to walk on me. And I get angry again. And I think maybe it's that I'm less than. And maybe secretly, I think that maybe it's because I'm unwanted. Or even worse, that I'm nothing. And this is how we wear injustice at times. And when we react, it's when we allow the emotion to push us into things that aren't true. A lot of people don't know this. Because when a lot of people think about Jesus, they think Christmas and Easter, and they think perfect and all that kind of stuff. But see, Jesus had a time where the people were given a choice. They could either choose to have Jesus live and live amongst them and lead them and help them, or they could choose to have him killed. And they chose to have him killed. A lot of people miss this in the Bible. It's in Matthew 27. The local Roman governor in Matthew 27:21, he brought out two people, a guy named Barabbas, who was actually a guy who'd been convicted of killing someone and leading a mob revolt where people got hurt, and Jesus. And Pilate said, which of these guys do you want me to let loose? And the crowd shouts back, give us Barabbas. And they go, well, what should I do with this Jesus? And they say, crucify him. Now, there were these influencers in the group that were trying to get their way, which is kind of what happened even in worship tonight. We had some people that were a little distracting, and it distracted even more people. We had some people that were a little rude, and it spread a little bit, because that can happen at times where if people influence a crowd, it can happen. In this case, the crowd influenced in a really, really, really bad way. They said, crucify him. But see, Jesus didn't react. He responded. See, God actually talked about this hundreds of years before Jesus would even walk the earth. In Isaiah chapter 53, verse 7, we read this about Jesus hundreds of years before he would even walk the earth. He was oppressed and treated harshly, yet he never said a word. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep is silent before the shears, he did not open his mouth. He didn't react, he responded. See, this is the difference between reacting and responding. Responding looks to make things better. Reacting is to make yourself feel better. The just trying to look to make yourself feel better will get you in trouble. That's what puts hands and feet into walls. It's the temper tantrums and yelled words that get you grounded or your phone taken away. It's the trying to punish a teacher because you don't like them by not studying, but it ends up hurting you instead of hurting them. It's you choose to react instead of respond. And that's not what God wants us to do. That's not what Jesus did. See, Jesus chose not to react, but to respond with something bigger. And that's the key. See, when you react, you're reacting out of your emotion. When you respond out of something bigger, it's because you know something they don't. You have a confidence in who you are, and you have a confidence in what really matters. Jesus chose to cling to who God said he was, and that God was bigger than all this was. This is a big statement. You're going to have people say awful things to you based on the type of body type you have, or what you're good at or not good at, based on where you live or what you wear. I wish I could tell you that it won't happen, but middle school might be where it happens worst and most. And I'm sorry for that. But this is what I know. If you and me can remember that that is not that important, the emotions that are coming up aren't as going to push us around, but the love in us is bigger, something different happens. See, I don't have to wear this anymore. I don't have to wear this in injustice. I don't have to have this define me. This doesn't have to be what people see. This doesn't have to be what I see. This doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be that way at all. Because really what can happen is all of a sudden I can remember that there's something bigger going on in me than what's going on around me. It's that his love is bigger than what happens to me. Your parents might get divorced. You might blow it on a test score. You might miss the shot in a big game. You might have a friend move. You might have to move. You might have someone say something rude to you, but that doesn't define you. It's not who you are. The love that's in you is bigger than what happens to you. And I really want you to hold on to that. Because it's not that bad things are going to happen, it's what we do when they happen. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how much what happens to you controls you. That's a big statement. If you're a note taker or a picture taker, this is something I would love to have you think about. Because you know what? This is a lot of things. This is you getting injured and losing your starting spot. This is you having family move away or a grandparent pass away. This is big things happening to you. What happens to you doesn't have to control you. It doesn't. Because this is what I know, that when you experience injustice, you can either respond or react. And my prayer is that you will respond and not react. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of God is theirs. It's what Jesus means here is that if people make fun of you for doing the right thing, what a great reason to be made fun of. Because we get made fun of for a lot of dumb things all the time. So here are my big ideas as we wrap up our time together. Here are kind of the big things that I want you to walk away with, okay? These are big things that could change your life. When it comes to injustice, I want you to remember these things. Here's the first one. Emotion is a sign and not a decision. Just being mad or being sad or being angry or being bummed is not enough of a reason for you to react. It's not. You're more complicated than that. You're more important than that. There's more to you than that. I don't know, I just felt ... If that's the reason that you're giving, you're reacting, not responding. You gotta be careful about that. Here's the next one. Don't just react letting your emotions call all the shots. This is the hardest thing. From right now, for the next 5 years of your life, this is gonna be one of the hardest things for you to do. And it's to not let your emotions push you around. Your emotions will cause you to push people away, say words that make you look ugly, and to do things that pull you away from God's best for you. Don't let your emotions push you around. Do respond, looking for what you can do to make it better. That's what respond means. What can I do to make it better? How can I turn this negative into a positive? Maybe it's a teacher that you got off on the wrong foot with. Rather than living under that cloud all year, what can you do to make it better? Maybe you feel like the coach doesn't have your back. Pull your coach aside. Rather than reacting to your coach, respond. Coach, what do I need to do better? As a former coach, I can tell you we love those conversations because we want to help you. That's what a coach does. And here's the last one, and this is huge, huge, huge. Remember God's heart for you is to turn a negative into a positive for you. So how can you join him? See, he already wants to do that. And here's the problem. When you react, you get in his way. When you respond, you join him. It's one of the biggest lessons that if you could walk out of here tonight, I promise you it'll change your world. You'll have people that won't look at you like a little kid anymore, and it will change your attitude and the way you see things and the way people see you. And that's what we want for you. Before I pray for us, I just want to remind you, this weekend, really would love to see you here filling these boxes. We want to fill 100 of these to send to kids, to give them a Christmas. This will be the only Christmas they get. The donations that you bring to put in this box will be the gifts they have. So you need to bring some stuff to put in this box, and please join us Saturday night or Sunday morning to fill up these. We want to put 100 of these together. 100 kids will have a Christmas because of you. You'll make a difference in injustice. But what about tomorrow morning? Tomorrow morning, I want you to respond and not react. I want you to remember you don't have to wear the injustices that you experience. You get to remember that the love of God in you is bigger than what happens to you.